Okay, so one of the reasons why I spent so much time on this, I want you guys to really understand how to work with your brain. It affects everything else. So what happens when you don't do positive life affirming things like eat, sleep, spend time with friends and family?
Your brain's gonna punish you.
Your brain's gonna punish you. Anybody have a theory on why depression, anxiety, and other related disorders are so high in our country?
Because of all the dopamine affiliated life choices that we have available in the United States.
Yes. I would attribute the vast majority of our mental illness not to, is it biochemical imbalance? Yes. People always go, I'm biochemical imbalance, as though you were like born with it and it will always be there. That's not true. I can change your chemical imbalance right now. Like that. Right? I can make you get up and we're going to go outside and we're going to run around in circles and I'll change your balance. I can make you stand up and laugh for 5 minutes, I'll change your chemical imbalance. I can change it in a heartbeat. So it's not something that's like static and you have a neurochemical imbalance and you're going to have it forever, which is a lot of times what the doctors tell you when they put you on antidepressants or antipsychotics. It's not necessarily true. It won't be that way forever. The problem is once your brain learned that pathway, so once you have been depressed in the past, your brain is much more likely to do it in the future. It knows that neural pathway. So depression, I would attribute most of it as a result to our general life circumstances. People in sub-Saharan Africa who have far more trauma, civil war, death, mayhem, all kinds of things that we don't deal with, have next to zero rates of depression. Just ask somebody from Africa how many depressed people they know. Yeah, they'll laugh at you. They say it's an American thing. So when they have a million times more reason to be depressed than us, why are we depressed about them?
Because we have so many things given to us, or we have a lot of more opportunities.
So that would make us depressed?
No. Well, I mean,
think it makes
think
us
about
happier.
it. A rich person who has all the money in the world can buy anything is more angry or more upset than someone who has absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because their brain is like
They didn't do work. Or is it anything
They
to
do
do?
work.
Right, but I'm just saying not the extensive work.
Not the kind of work we do.
their brain
You don't
needs
live in
more and more
cubicles.
dopamine to
Huh?
function.
What?
Their brain needs more dopamine to.
That would make them depressed. If they didn't have enough dopamine?
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, people who live in sub-Saharan Africa generally are exposed to sunlight a lot. What does vitamin D and sunlight do for your brain?
Makes you happy.
Makes you very happy. Second of all, they tend to spend a lot more time with family and community. Family and community makes your brain think you're likely to procreate, therefore you are
Happy.
happy. They tend to not spend days in dark cubicles with anxiety-producing fluorescent lights for hours on end, not eating or drinking. That makes them
Happy.
happy. They tend to actually sleep at night, which makes them
Happy.
right? So all the wealth in the world isn't going to compensate for you abusing your brain. You're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is set up as a very simple creature. It wants very simple things. It feels as though Americans are just bound and determined to die. Honestly, if you could never sleep, how many would do it? Most Americans try. 92% of Americans are sleep deprived. Missing 45 minutes of sleep equates to having drinking 2 beers in its impairment ability. Which means that essentially everybody's drinking, driving. They're impaired. 45 minutes. 45 minutes, letting a school child sleep in 45 minutes equates to 1 whole grade level of improvement for the entire class. So this lack of sleeping in one stage of us is profound. What kinds of food do we eat? Crap.
Preservatives.
Anybody tried to be gluten-free?
No, my mom is.
See, I eat
By the way, you go gluten-free, about 90% of all food sources in the American diet are no longer available to you. It's one of the advantages actually of being gluten-free. I became gluten-free. I actually didn't buy into it. Sid wanted to be gluten-free, and she's diabetic, and it meant I got more organic stuff in the house, so I was like, okay. I totally didn't buy into the fad. I became a believer later. But it eliminates about 90% of what you're able to eat. So gluten is known to be an addictive substance. It actually works on the same receptor sites as morphine. So when you eat, for example, a Twinkie has the effect of a quarter dose of hospital-grade morphine. Well, I kid you. I kid you not. I got the. I'll give you the sources. Just send me an email. And they're reputable sources. They're peer-reviewed journal articles. So you don't usually eat one Twinkie though.
I always eat 4.
Yeah, look at why you need so much morphine, right? It acts on the same receptors as heroin and morphine. So it attacks those parts of the brain, and that's part of why we eat them. Have you realized that people will eat like 10 when
Or like
nobody's
those-
really that hungry?
That zombie movie where the
Oh, yeah.
collapsed, and he was like, "All I want is a Twinkie."
That's what I'm saying. So gluten itself is highly addictive. Now, the rationale behind this, I've talked to a lot of doctors. I tried to figure it out because it doesn't make sense. We've been eating gluten since the beginning of time. Well, okay, the original gluten that our ancestors ate had 3 molecules. The gluten you eat have 107.
Oh boy.
So it's not the wheat that it's not the wheat that we ate. It's been genetically modified. It's been modified in a lot of different ways. It's also in all of our food. So what we think happens, and talking to a lot of doctors and nutritionists, is that when you eat so much gluten, first of all, it damages the inner lining of your stomach, and it leaks out into your system, and your brain identifies it as an allergen. It's not as though you're born with it, like you'd be born with like allergic to milk or whatever. It's you eat so much of it. So this one theory that my nephew's doctor has is that your brain identifies anything that you have while you're sick as being the problem. Well, what's the likelihood that you ate a lot of gluten while being sick? Pretty high, because you eat a lot of gluten anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So your brain can come to identify that as the enemy. But I didn't buy it. I thought it was a fad. I'm like, okay. But I saw the way that it limited how we ate, so I was like all for it. And I was all for it for about a year because of that reason. I'm like, I'm not allergic to gluten. Like it's kind of hippy-dippy stuff. But about a year after Sid and I went gluten-free, we went to a restaurant. I was taking out for her birthday, and they wanted to bring us French silk or red velvet cake for a free birthday. I said, please don't. We both looked at him and said, please don't. Don't, no. He goes, well, it's your birthday. I know, just don't. Of course they brought it. So we're looking at it, we could share it. It's no big thing, it's one cake. Haven't done it in a year, no problem. We split it in half. We got higher crap. I
Really?
kid you not. All of a sudden I looked at her and she looked at me and she goes, I'm like, do you feel drunk? She's like, yeah. Like we couldn't, it was ridiculous. Like I am so not even kidding you. We got higher than you can even imagine. Scared me straight, right? And it talks about my cookie addiction a little bit, has to do with that. And my cookie addiction, man, no joke. It's not even funny. So gluten is a highly addictive substance. Sugar is an incredibly addictive substance. We translate chocolate as heroin.